Now, Order to Rhyme here from Get Over It Media. In the past, I did a series called The 6 Essential Reasons Why the Left Hates Donald Trump. Now, how that series came about was because as a black man, I would get asked all the time why I supported Donald Trump. And so the things that I would list were not the typical talking points. I would not usually talk about the economy or black unemployment or even the conservative judges. And I wouldn't get into illegal immigration either. Now, let me say this as an aside. Something that never gets talked about is the adverse impact that illegal immigration has had on the middle class. It has played a factor in the erosion of the middle class. For instance, over the last 40 years or so, wages have not kept pace with the GDP nor inflation. So, in other words, the success that the economy has seen, the growth of the economy, it wasn't passed down to the working class. Instead, it was rolled up and passed on to the investors and stockholders, to upper management. And that was allowed to happen because illegal immigration undercut the working class wages. They didn't have to pay people more because they had alternatives that they can turn to. But again, that's a separate video for a separate time. So again, I didn't usually give the usual talking points. And what I found is that the 6 reasons for why I did support Trump, those happen to be the very reasons that the left couldn't stand him. Now, I'm sure in their mind, their reasons for hating Trump are endless. But I found that once you parse through and pare their arguments down, they really only fall into 6 basic categories. And one of those reasons was his message, Make America Great Again. Now let me stop here just for a second. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I did a TikTok and I stitched an anti-Trump video. And the person who originally did the video he was at a Trump rally. And a lot of people got up and left about 2 hours into the meeting. And the person says the reason why is because Trump had gone through all of his catchphrases and he was no longer using language that could be considered racist, divisive, nor inflammatory. And he says, and this is what the person said, since Trump was no longer feeding their racist attitudes and appetites, they just got up and left. Now, in my video that I stitched, I didn't even deal with that. I didn't even address that. What I addressed was the fact that people did leave. So the question was asked of me, did I fall for that? Why didn't I address that aspect? And my point is, for me to have addressed that statement about Trump supporters being racist, it would have been for only one of 2 reasons. Either I had to be triggered by the statement, and then now I'm sitting up here screaming how it ain't true, or I had to see a strategic or tactical reason to address it. I didn't. So I didn't. What I want people to understand is that the accusation that Trump supporters are racist, that's low-hanging fruit. And it's part of a larger narrative. I do want you to notice what was being attacked was Trump's message. They're saying his message is racist. So that's why I'm doing this video. So, be that as it may. 6 essential reasons why the left hates Donald Trump. And one of the reasons was because of his message. Make America Great Again. And here's what I said in the past about that message. That message was a clarion call. One that rises and resonates across all racial lines. In other words, when you hear that message, Make America Great Again, it should make you proud to be a United States and American citizen. Now, here's what I would say to that. If America is not great, because I heard that all the time too. If America is not great, then the question we should all be asking ourselves is, what is my part in making it great? Not complaining. What can I do? As Jack Kennedy once said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what can you do for your country. message first came out, it was full of hope and pregnant with potential and promise. Why? Because that message means something to each and every one of us from an individual standpoint, but it's still inclusive. We're still all inclusive in it. That message makes you feel like the country belongs to you. Listen, and that no one should be able to say to you that you don't have a place or a voice here. To me, that's what make America great again means. So then the onus is on us. The message empowers us to take back ownership, that the nation belongs to we the people, not the elites and not the government. Now, let me say this. If you heard that message and in your mind you felt that message was evil, divisive, or racist, that's a statement about you, not the message. And chances are you're probably a Democrat, allegedly. So then with that message, here's what we understand. That the power rests where it should, with the people. That message is for all citizens. It does not matter your ethnicity, your creed, your color, your gender, your background, your situation, or even your circumstances. Now, let me give you a practical example of Make America Great Again. That would be found in something called the First Step Program and Act. Y'all remember that? That was about getting people out of prison. So then, as I see it, that act was born out of making America great again for all citizens. It looked to help those who have been unduly incarcerated and are overly penalized. It says, we see you. It says, let us help you reintegrate back into society and with your family. Now, here's what the critics of the act said. They said, well, it didn't go far enough. Here's what I would counter. That's because no one would go and speak to the president and say this doesn't go far enough. Anybody who was a critic of it, they never went to see the president. They were told, oh, we don't like him, so we can't go talk to him. How asinine and self-defeating that was. And that the act, it's not as effective as it should be, even what we do have in place. It fails. And I would say to this, that's because the people who need it the most don't support it. They would not support it when we had somebody in office who not only authored it, but who was championing that bill. We wouldn't go talk to him. And now, the person who is most responsible for that act to be drafted in the first place, in other words, the reason why people are being overly penalized and incarcerated at an alarming rate, that person who's most responsible for that is actually sitting in the office right now. Now, does anybody see the irony in that? So then, the left's platform is based on identity politics. It's based on division and race baiting. So guess what that means? That they would not have a counter to a message that is inclusive. A message that cuts across racial lines, they wouldn't have a counter to it. A message that speaks to our sense of right and wrong and accountability, they wouldn't have a counter to it. A message that speaks to the blue collar and white collar, they wouldn't have a counter to it. A message that speaks to all social classes, they would not have a counter to it. Now they say, oh, that message is rooted in white supremacy. Yet you look at all of the minorities that are drawn to that message. Cognitive dissonance. No, it's called lying. That was a message that was not only to galvanize his base, which are the disenfranchised. That was his base. It was also able to galvanize an entire nation. Look at the number of people who voted for Obama twice who were drawn to it. So then the only response that the left had was to demonize the message and to demonize the messenger. That's called an ad hominem attack, by the way. If anyone gravitated or was drawn to the message, then they would be demonized and found guilty by association. That's why they say Trump supporters are racist. Again, it's low-hanging fruit. So then what's the solution? Let me say this. Twofold question. What is our part to make America great again? And then the question for the critics that's asked, when was America ever great? The answer is one and the same. That's questions two sides to the same coin. So let's deal with it. The highest creed and ethic of this nation is located where? In the preamble of its founding document, the Declaration of Independence. Here's what it says. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed with certain inalienable rights by their Creator. Among them, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So then greatness is sown into the fabric of the nation. The nation has had the potential to be great since its inception. So why not? Listen. Now, the biggest sins and transgressions of this nation is when it fails to rise up to that principle and to live out that creed that all men are created equal. That's whether it's domestic or abroad. Now, so in this nation, we had a time in which an ethnic group of people were being enslaved and treated as property. They were even told that the Constitution does not apply to them, that they had no constitutional standing. That is what the Supreme Court adjudicated in the Dred Scott decision. So I would say, yeah, not so great. Matter of fact, not great at all, not even a little bit. But what happened? Some people stood up and said, hey, that's wrong. Set out to do what? To make America great. To live out that creed. So then, our role as citizens is to hold the nation and its elected and appointed officials accountable. That's how we make it great. That's each and every one of our parts.